Okay, this is how you respool a ITR. In this case we have a thread boss ITR with Vectra Line from a Vectra thread bullet. There's about 40 feet of line on the thread bullet, and we're going to take off the thread that comes with the ITR and replace it with Vectra Line. We've had a lot of requests from people asking to do, or if it's possible to do just this, and we're going to give it a try. I've never done this before, but I have a plan. We're going to start out, we might as well break this off because we're going to discard the thread that's inside here, and we don't want tension on this when we take this out. Carefully remove the ends, one end of your reel, and you should be able to work out the little piece of foam that holds the end of the elastic in there. And we'll take this out, even though I know I may lose that end and have to fetch it later. I'm going to take a little bit of twist out of it so I know it's not going to bundle up inside there. It's not going to want to jump in and twist up, and I'm just going to let it hang freely right there. So now let's remove our thread from this thing. Actually, let's take the entire thing out so we can remove the thread more easily. Again, don't break your elastic. We want to pop that out. Okay. Take the twist out of there. Now I've got the end of my thread here, and lay out a piece of white paper so you have a nice surface to work on. And you want to keep track of this thread by just, once you can get a hold of it, start spooling it around your fingers. And I brought the glass here so we can just drop this into the glass. Same thing with the thread bullet. That's going to control it. And I'm just spooling the thread around my fingers. We're going to get rid of it. It's possible that your thread could get stuck in those elastics, in which case you'll want to break it free and continue onwards. Let's see. Now this is a little time consuming, but of course you only have to do it once. I'm just going to pull out longer runs and wind it down by drawing my hands up and away. And then, okay, we've got all the thread off the core. And we're going to remove that from our fingers and bunch that up, you know, so the dog doesn't eat it or something. Get rid of that, put it in the trash. I'm going to attach it here to the old wax from the ITR. So we're going to be using new wax from the thread bullet anyway. So now we have our naked core, and as you notice, there's nothing attached at the end. The thread is wound on itself to attach, and we do supply Vectra Line for cores, and there are cores, refill cores available that would save you this step of the winding. This is how we wind them, and this is how we attach them also to begin with. So you just wind the thread over on itself. Now I'm going to discard my rubber band here because we're just going to be using up all this thread. We're not going to use the functionality of the thread bullet at all. We're going to take advantage of that at all. And remove my wax here. And again, to control this, let's just drop it into the cup, into the glass. I'll leave the wax on for just a moment as I get ready to wind this up, but then I'm going to snap it off and wind the thread a few times so it goes around itself. Let me pinch the thread there with my thumb. I'm going to snap that. Whoop. The Vectra Line's very strong. It slipped between my finger. It wouldn't break. I'll snap that off. And now we're going to wind it several times carefully, and you can jump over and up the spool just a little bit or slide this down to the side that way a little bit so that you can wind it a few times, but zigzag it back over itself. And it doesn't take many times, really. It's amazing how easily it does lock in place once you've wound it tightly, like that. And you can remove your thumb. And you want to make sure you don't have a whole lot of excess. That's why you broke it. You pinch it with your thumb and then you break it off right under your thumb, because that can screw you up later. I don't know if I'm going to keep this visible or not. Here's what we'll do. I'll put the glass on the floor so you can see what's going on here. And this is just going to unspool, of course, as I wind it. Okay. And now I see I've got a little excess piece hanging off here, and it probably wouldn't give me any trouble at all. And I can see that against this white paper, but I'm going to just make sure I'm going to bust that off. Better yet, I'll take the scissors, because you don't want to screw up your core at this point. And I'm just going to cut off that wild hair there that's sticking out. Okay, and the rest will get wound in as we wind this. Now don't get caught up in your rubber bands. Hold this where you're comfortable. Again, don't ruin your felt on the ends. And you're just going to wind this entire thing up. Try to keep it in one basic nice little area in the middle when we get towards the edges. And of course this will be time consuming. Again, you only have to do it once. The technique with the glass can be used, of course, also to re-spool your electronic reels. Just a little bit simpler because this part is done for you. It's just a nice way to control the thread bullet so it doesn't roll all over the floor and potentially get hooked up in something. Now you could conceivably load half of this and save half for later, or put it in a different reel, but we're just going to do the whole thing. That's it. I did it. So we have empty thread bullet, and we have spooled our entire core. And now what I'm going to do, and be very careful you don't press these ends, but it's some good glue that he's got on there. We're going to take a bit of this black wax here, and we're going to take a very, very, very tiny bit, because this is going to pass through the hole in the reel. Very small amount, and I can see the thread pretty easily here. I can actually just roll this onto the tip of it. Okay. It doesn't have to be any big deal. There's not going to be a lot of pressure on here. Just make sure it's don't have any loose bits. Very tiny bit of thread. We're going to pass this core through. We have to get the rubber bands on each end, the foam back in, and the caps back on. Let's go. Okay, I'll get that about in that position there. I don't want too much rubber band sticking out because I don't want to get it folded back or anything too far. I want it to kind of travel through, and I don't want to lose it inside. We're going to turn this over so the hole, there's two holes in this, this goes in, and we want it to go out the hole, just like that. And we want it to do so, okay, so that it gives us enough, oh, make sure it's hanging loosely and pops out that hole, there we go. And then we get the end of this core in, and the rubber band's straight on the end of the core, not folded over, hopefully. And kind of wiggle it around so we get this all to go through the way we want it. Let's see how if we get lucky here. And we can pull a little bit to make sure we're not tangled there with our thread. Now this is, I think there's a better technique for actually inserting the core. I'm not quite sure about that. I want to push this through. I think this is about the right size to do that. Just take something you can push with. Push it far enough that you can get your rubber band out and loose from everything. Hold on to the end of that rubber band, and then bring this back. This rubber band is still on the outside. We're going to attach our foam thingies, and again we can make sure that we're freely turning, and we are. This is a really strong magnet, so I should get rid of that. And we're going to put the foam things in each end and put the caps back on. So let's start with this one. And whoop, I lost that one. I'm going to hold this out by actually placing the cap on and pinching it for a second, and I'm going to fold it over the side. That makes sense. Now we'll put this one back in. Of course, this is like a cut kind of in the shape of an 8. The foam is, so it can fit through here. The thread bullet actually would have been a perfect thing to push that out with. And get that where it's kind of in the middle there. This is going to get pushed up into the cap again. You can do that nicely with this thread bullet. Keep it straight in there. Push it all the way up. And put the cap on. Make sure that rubber band's not pinched. Where our thread is, okay. And then this one will take off, and I'm going to make sure I don't lose that rubber band. Okay. Get this in between here. And we'll put that back in this side. Push that in nice and flat with our thread bullet again. And recap. Now we've got our thread hanging out, and we're going to lose some thread, but we have to pull it to put tension on this reel. Now we've got the whole thing reset. We've pulled the thread out. We've put the new thread back in. We have the rest of our black wax here. That's what I'm going to use then once we get some tension going on this thing. Yeah, that's all you can do is pull out thread. You could wind the ends, but okay. A few feet of thread, and now we're working with some tension here. You may want to use a little bigger piece of wax if that's too small to stay out. Discard this bit here. And there you have it. A nicely reloaded Vectra thread boss. Hi, I'm Steve Fearson, and this is the Thread Bullet. The Thread Bullet is the fastest way to get into thread magic and start working with a static line. What that means is that your thread is not attached to anything mechanical or electronic. It's controlled only by you. It makes for the most natural looking levitations possible. It's the way the pros do it, and now you can too, with the Thread Bullet.